Okay, today we are looking at the parole hearings of two convicts, both responsible for a death. Let's check it out.
Darrell James Sterling,
Okay.
36-435.
A first offense felon, you were sentenced January 10th, 1992. Sentencing was life in prison at hard labor to be served without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence. On December 13, 2023, a computation of sentence from the life to 99 years with recommendation for parole eligibility after serving 30 years was granted by the governor, John Bell. The staff there, the warden, do we have anybody there to speak on your behalf? Warden, do you have any comments, or the staff there?
Yes, sir. As far as Mr. Sterling, currently he's in a couple of program classes, and that I recommend that he needs to finish that. He has a very good disciplinary record. Last time he's been written up was 2008. He has a high school diploma. He's completed a lot of management classes and everything. So right now he's a Min 8 trustee, and he's been doing what needs to be done.
Thank you so much. Today we have that speaking on the behalf of Mr. Sterling is Julie Mudd.
Julie Mudd, yes. Hello, good morning.
I'm going to let you go last. And we have David Green, who is a minister. And we have also John Sterling, the brother. And do we have anybody else on the video? Okay. Mr. Green, would you like to make a statement?
Yes, thank you. Good morning to this honorable board. Thank you for allowing me to be able to speak on behalf of Brother Darrell Sterling. Been knowing Brother Darrell Sterling for over 15 years now in ministry, and he has been definitely one of our stronger ministers there in Angola at the main prison there. And we're so proud of Brother Sterling. We're looking forward to, if this honorable board see fit, to grant Darrell Sterling another opportunity at his freedom to have him on our staff here with Keep It Real Ministries. You all know that we help house men out of incarceration, which we have some great men that you all have released to society that are still faithful to the Lord and being an impact in the community right here in St. Bernard Parish, where we are located. And so we look forward to letting Darrell continue to exercise the gift that God has blessed him with in ministry here, and being an encouragement, especially to our youth that are going to the left, so deep to the left, that need encouragement from folks that have made bad choices and bad decisions in life before, just to keep it real with them. But thank you all for allowing us to be here, and we just praying that God would bless you all, touch your heart to grant Darrell Sterling another opportunity, and we look forward to working with him. And anyone on this board is always welcome to come to this facility here at Keep It Real Ministries in St. Bernard Parish and just see how all these wonderful men are doing. We're not bragging, but it's only because of the grace of God and the strength of the Lord that they are doing the things that they are doing.
Thank you so much. John Sterling. You can speak now. You step at the podium.
To the podium.
His brother, just support him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sterling, would you like to say something on your behalf?
Good morning to the honorable board this morning. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak. Very remorseful. First of all, I'd like to speak on behalf of my remorse for the family of Mr. James Baptiste. Waited 34 years for this opportunity to be able to express my remorse for the tragic act of murdering Mr. Baptiste. I'm very sorry that it I like to the mother of his children, as well as his children. I'm very remorseful for causing such a horrible impact on your life, taking your loved one from you. I can't imagine how you must hate me as a person. I just wanted to also let y'all know how humbly I come before you, asking for your forgiveness. It was just terrible. You know, I've caused pain in the lives of so many people, my community, my family. I'm deeply remorseful. The company that I was working for at the time, United Parcel Service, my coworkers. I've waited so long. This thing has dealt with me for so long, and I just wanted to be able to just let Mr. Baptiste's family and his loved ones know how terrible, sorry I am, and I just want to humbly put myself in a position to ask for your forgiveness.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Myers, I'm sorry. Are you ready to speak?
Yes, thank you. We're here to support Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling isn't new to Parole Project. Parole Project has known Mr. Sterling for a very long time. We feel very confident. Mr. Sterling is a first offender. He's been incarcerated for 34 years. He's done significant work in rehabilitation, and we believe that he's a perfect example of how the Department of Corrections works, of rehabilitation. That's the goal. And we believe that Mr. Sterling, based on his age, based on the amount of time served, the support that Parole Project will give him after 34 years of incarceration in the transition. He also has an extremely high quality long-term plan. And so we're prepared to work with Mr. Sterling for as long as that transition period is needed before he moves on to that. We'll help him through the basics for someone who's been incarcerated that long, through technology, through finance, through social norms, through the one-on-one mentoring that we're able to provide. And so we just ask this board to consider this and grant Mr. Sterling his parole today.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sterling, Mr. Barros is handling your case, and he's going to be asking you some questions along with the panel. Mr. Barros.
Before questions, I just need to get some of the facts out on the record of the case, that we have a lot of opposition from the law enforcement and the victim's family. The district attorney office is letting us know that the life sentence should not be commuted. The victim's family was told that life means life, and it should be. The sheriff's office spokesman says we are opposed to early release for anyone convicted of murdering a human being. Police department statement says Darrell Sterling's involvement in the murder of James Baptiste was one of violence and premeditation. Sterling and another subject intended to rob Baptiste of his money and drugs. Sterling admitted striking Baptiste with a curling bar. The impact caused the weights and the ends to fly off the bar. Sterling admitted to carrying Baptiste's body to the bathroom, where Sterling admitted to taking a razor and cutting both of his wrists of the victim. Sterling then went to the kitchen and obtained a knife, giving it to his accomplice, who then cut the throat of Mr. Baptiste. After the murder of Baptiste, Sterling and his accomplice then robbed Baptiste of his money. After several days, Sterling and his accomplice returned Baptiste's body and moved it and dumped it in a body of water along Lake Charles, along with other evidence of the crime. Due to the extensive violence of this crime, Sterling should serve his original sentence handed down by the judge. That's the law enforcement opposition we have documented. And the Baptiste family, Ms. Vanita Baptiste, the sister of the victim, was contacted, and she is adamantly opposed for early release. She's described the day her brother's body was discovered and is unable to understand how someone could have murdered another human being like that. Hamilton Baptiste, the brother of the victim, he's extremely opposed, and Crystal Baptiste, the cousin of the victim, extremely opposed. And that's a lot of opposition we got to deal with regarding this if we would determine that to release you. My question is, why do you think you, at this point in your life, you deserve to be released? What have you done, and why do you think that today's the day that we should be releasing you?
Mr. Barrows, thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. I was 29 years old when I got locked up for the murder of Mr. Baptiste. I'm entering my 34th year of incarceration. I've grown up all over again in prison. Immediately as soon as I got to prison, working my way out of the prison cell block farm line, I started working on myself as soon as I got into population in 1993. I've excelled in every job I've had in 34 years. I've only had 5 jobs outside of a farm line. My first job was working for the prison enterprise with the Louisiana tag making process. The second job was in 95 for the main prison laundry, worked over 25 years of experience there. I became the inmate manager and supervisor. I had 5 different supervisors from that point. Unit management asked me to train security as well as training the offenders in that place for pressing clothes, using industrial washing machines and dryers. The next job from there was required for a trustee, which I've never compromised my trustee status from 2008 up until this point. I've always worked outside of the prison compounds, unsupervised. I don't have any escape risk. I started working on my sobriety. I have 34 years of sobriety. I've taken New Hope AA. I've completed relapse recovery, substance abuse, living in balance, thinking for a change, anger management, JCs. I took a course in 93 JCs from 1993 to 94, a year worth of those self-help development classes. I've taken AA in 93. I've taken CPR, and those skills for CPR in 2019 came to pass when a major died. A correction officer died at my feet from a heart attack. Me and my co-workers were able to perform with the instructions that I had to help the warden and the security officer. We worked on this guy for 5 minutes, and the major, he came back to life, and he's still working for Angola here today. I've taken Toastmasters, Building Your Thinking Power, Parliamentary Procedures. The Club for Angola Special Civic Project was a pre-reform organization for the possibility for parole for life at the time. We had a concession. I worked in the area with the visitors. I've learned management skills, short order cook forms. I've trained people. I've management skills. I've learned secretarial, bookkeeping, accounting, leadership skills. I've also taken Dale Carnegie. I've always worked on myself since I came to prison up until this present date, 2007. I was added to the Lord's Church, and all of these things that I'm doing is voluntary outside of my normal work job. Unit management used me in 94 to 96 to do a newsletter, which was piggybacked off of the Angolite. The Angolite staff took and worked with me to try to help improve my writing skills. I was bridging the gap between the administration at unit and and the unit management with the inmate population to curb the violence at the time, and it started escalating in the early 90s. And they used me as a negotiator to go and speak with people as the problem so that we could help find solutions, try to make a better community. I've always put myself in a position on a voluntary basis to not only be a role model and a pillar in the community, but also to help people with their families. That laundry helped me to reach out and make sure that the people's clothes was always done properly and that they had food to feed their families when they came and visit. I used the club to feed the poor. Everything that I did, I gave back to society here in this community to work with unit managers to help curb the violence and make it peaceful for all of us. And at this time, I'm not a bad person. I had a very bad addiction into crack. And I'm just praying and asking that the board could find the mercy in their heart. And I'm not a terrible person. I just came out of rehab. I went to 2 rehabs on the street. I had a bad addiction. I'm without excuse for what happened. And I'd just like to ask the board for some mercy today and consider me for parole. Thank you, Mr. Barros.
And I started out with the negative parts of your case, but there's some positive things too. Looking at your record being in there, you've only had 4 write-ups in all of that time, and the last one being in 1992 is what I see, and that you're on a minimum level of security, and that you are a true first offender, which we don't really see a lot of those guys. You've never been convicted of a prior felony. You picked a hell of a one to do for your first one, but you were pretty much a clean case until that date. So those are the positive things, and you have support of the Parole Project and everybody else. There are some negatives and positives. Thank you for your explanation. It was pretty good.
Ms. Ledoux?
Mr. Sterling, I want you to elaborate for me, and maybe your attorney is prepared to do that, but elaborate for me, what is your plan if you were to be released? Tell me where you would go. You're 62, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You're in pretty good shape there.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what you're going to do. What is your first couple of years? What are you going to do with yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Ledoux, for the opportunity to speak with you. The Parole Project is willing to work with me for a long-term program at my age so that it can properly help me transition back into society, find an adequate place to stay and a job at my age so that I could properly support myself. Our ministry is 24/7, the Lord's Church, the Church of Christ. I've been a volunteer minister since 2007. I've effectively, in my obedience to God, since I moved to Camp F over a year and a half ago, one of the first guys that's volunteered to go over there, and 3 guys have addressed and obeyed the scriptures and got baptized according to the scriptures. And the ministry is something that I've taken on for my life from this point on since 2007. The other options I have would be, through the Parole Project, man, to help me find something sufficient enough for me at my age to be able to support myself. I like to also talk to at-risk youths. The suicide rate is high. The guy that got baptized on death row, he was suicidal. He had failed in the suicide attempt, and the administrator wanted me to talk with him, and I spoke with him, and he wanted to meet with me. And the ministry has been very effective in a lot of guys' lives since I've been here in prison, and properly praying that whatever city I reside in, that I could get with the mayor or whoever's in charge of community service projects, and just whatever years I have left, just get back to community out there in society at youth risk, and just try to make a difference, a greater impact on society than what I had the opportunity to do here in Angola, man.
I have no questions. Ms. Mudd, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to start, I know that the warden had mentioned a couple of programs that Mr. Sterling was enrolled in but hadn't finished. He actually did finish Living in Balance. August 28th is the date of this certificate. He is also completed, they had their last substantive class for Thinking for a Change on this past Friday. So he is waiting on the certificate for that. He's got, when I was putting together this packet, I don't know that I've ever seen this many certificates for one person. He has 52 certificates for various activities. I know that, some of the good time classes that he's participated in, Cage Your Rage, 100 Hours, Living in Balance, Thinking for a Change. There's so many. I'm not going to read all of these things, but he's participated in many classes that will assist him in staying sober when he gets out of custody. I think that he is, a true case of someone who has been reformed. He's come to prison. He's taken full advantage of all of the opportunities that have been given to him here. He's an incredibly remorseful person. He has expressed that to the board, but also he has expressed that through his actions since he's been in custody. He's, taken every opportunity to minister to other prisoners. In addition to Mr. Green, who spoke, I've spoken to several people with the Church of Christ. It's like his second family, and they're very supportive of him. And I believe that if he is released, then they will continue to be very supportive of him on the outside. I think that, Richard Felix in particular, who brought him into the Church of Christ, has, he expressed to me that Mr. Sterling is like family to him. And I believe that going forward, that will continue to be the case. He's, as was mentioned, a Class A trustee. He's been a Class A trustee for a very long time, only 4 write-ups in his 34 years of incarceration. He's gotten his driver's license. I don't think that's in the packet. He's gotten his driver's license since he's been in custody. I will note too, this wasn't a trial case. He actually pled guilty at the time that this case was going on. He took accountability at that point. He has just excelled at everything he has done since he has been here in prison. He's educated himself. He actually has a college degree. He had a college degree before he came into prison, and then he's continued some courses through colleges since he's been in. That includes Nations University and Northwest Missouri Community College. There are some certificates in his packet from those, as well as his WO Boston High School diploma and McNeese State University. He has associate in science from McNeese State University as well. So he's in a good position to succeed when he gets out. He'll have plenty of things to occupy his time and to become a productive member of society.
Thank you so much. Is the board ready to vote?
I ask for executive session.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Jeremy Lou? Yes. Danny Barrow?
Yes.
Tim Kidd?
Yes. We're gonna go in executive session right now. Yeah. We can vote now? Yeah. All right, Mr. Barr, handle your case. He will vote first.
Mr. Sterling, I gotta commend you on your exemplary prison record. That's really impressive. I also looking at you being a true first offender and giving you credit for that, and the good support that you have with the parole project and other people. So based on your behavior in prison and your positive changes, I'm going to vote to grant you parole today, and on the condition that you speak with at-risk children at least 4 times a year and let them know the dangers of drugs and one bad decision, how long it can cost you. One bad decision can cost you. So you can either set that up with probation and parole, to do it at the schools, or I'll also let you do it through the church with the ministers, because I know they see a lot of at-risk children too. And that was something you said you wanted to do, and I think it's a great idea. And a second condition is going to be that you have absolutely no contact with the victim's family members. And if you do come aware that any of them are around you, it's going to be incumbent on you to leave, not engage, do not, no contact, period. And casual contact, you need to be turning around and leaving, not trying to engage with anybody on the victim side, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Ms. Ledoux?
Mr. Sterling, there is nothing you can do to change what you did 34 years ago. Nothing you can do to change that. My decision today is based on what you've done since you committed that heinous crime, and you've owned up to that. You pled guilty. You accepted responsibility. I don't like the term model inmate. I don't like that term. But I do like the term rehabilitated individual, and I believe you are. My vote's going to be to grant parole. My stipulation is that you never live in Calcasieu Parish.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Ledoux.
So Sterling, I think you've done a great job. You convinced me that you're remorseful. You've done a lot what we expect people to do. My vote is to grant, to release you to the parole project. So today, you have 3 votes for you. You've been granted parole.
Thank you, Honorable Board. Publish.
Thank you so much.
Most. Can you smile for us?
Thank you,
so much. It ends our business today.
Thank you.
Christopher P. Card, DOC number 334954.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have today people who are speaking on your behalf. Is Ms. Jennifer Cameron, your attorney?
Yes, sir.
Gary Myers, Louisiana Parole Project, and Josh Jones, brother-in-law, Amy Dozer, a friend, and we have no other. That's it. And the victims will be speaking against is Shirley Adams, victim's mother, Rachel Picking, victim's sister. Mr. Picard.
Yes, sir.
Your first offender, felony offender.
Yes, sir.
Action required was computation of sentence. And that's it. So today, Ms. Ledoux will be handling your case, but first we're going to let your brother-in-law, Josh Jones, speak on your behalf. Is he available? Josh, he's not.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you guys for giving me a chance to speak on behalf of Christopher this morning. I'm his brother-in-law. I met Chris back in 2016. I had the opportunity to go to Angola prison with his mother and his sister. I was kind of skeptical at first about even going to the facility. I've been in law enforcement since 2007, and that was one reason I was skeptical about this situation. I've heard so many stories and been in this career, you kind of see through people. After meeting Chris, I seen that he was a humble human being that was remorseful for what he had did. Also, after the years of getting to know Chris more, Chris has been a role model to some of my kids as well. They don't want to listen to their dad, but they listen to Chris. Chris has took the opportunity to actually rehabilitate himself, which is very rare for what I see in cases like this. Chris has took the opportunity that he has been given and enrolled in many, many programs to help himself and others as well. So I truly believe that Chris could do good when and if he gets out. I just like to take a minute and just see if you guys will consider this and help grant his parole for him. That's all I have for today. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you speaking on his behalf. Next, Miss Amy Dozer, a friend.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here today to express my support for Chris. I've known Chris since October of 2015. I know from my friendship with Chris that he has acknowledged his mistakes and he is extremely remorseful for his participation in the crime that was committed. I also know that Chris has taken the steps that he's needed for his rehabilitation. I know that Chris's participation in this crime took a daughter, a sister, and a friend from her loved ones. There's no amount of time or rehabilitation that will ever erase what he did on December 28th of 1991. I can only pray for the victim's family that they can one day find it in their hearts and have peace. Chris has been incarcerated for over 30 years. He's taken the time to complete the educational courses and other programming to come before you today. He has been a model inmate exhibiting good behavior as well as a friend and role model to his peers. During the time I've known Chris, I've had many opportunities to visit with him and correspond with him. I've watched him at many of the rodeos selling his hobby craft and interacting with the public. He has conducted himself with professionalism, respect, and kindness. I truly believe that Chris should be granted parole because he will excel in anything that he chooses to do. I will be here for Chris should the time come that he's released if he needs anything. My home is open to him and I will remain in contact with him. I know that he also has the support of many other extended family and friends. I'd also like to say that Chris had just turned 19 years old when this crime happened. I didn't know him at the time, and I don't believe that he is that same teenager though. He's now 51 years old. He's been incarcerated for over 3 decades. Studies demonstrate that recidivism decreases with age. And I believe that with all the support that Chris has, he's a great candidate for parole, and he'll become a contributing member of society and maybe even a mentor to other young, struggling teens. And I hope that you guys find it in your hearts today to grant his parole. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Mr. Myers.
Good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We've been working with Mr. Picard since his clemency hearing and continue to support him and support his release. Should he be granted today, he'll come into our program where he'll get the transitional support that he needs after 32 years of incarceration. Obviously, there's a lot of living he has to make up for as far as how to function in the world, but he's proven a level of maturity. And I'd like to point out just three or four things. He's had the same job for the last 16 years at the CDC warehouse, handling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of inventory, a very trusted position. He's been a trustee for 18 consecutive years without losing that status. He is on the disaster remediation crew at the prison. Essentially, it's volunteer, but selected for it because of his maturity and his stability. And he's 51 years old. At this point, he is very much employable with the skills that he has. So he's kind of in a sweet spot right now as far as his ability to earn a living. We support Mr. Picard. He has an approved residence plan once he finishes parole project, and strong support from his family. And we just ask this board to grant his parole today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Myers. Is the warden there or someone at the facility would like to speak on his behalf?
Yes, sir. Chris has been a trustee for 18 years, like it's been said before. I would want to add that he completed victim awareness, received a GED in 1997. Malachi Dabbs, 2017, 100 hours in 2016. Substance abuse in 2017, and anger management in 2006. And, plus, Chris was asked to do several other programs and that he has completed, and he will be proud to let y'all know that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Christopher, do you have anything you'd like to say on your behalf?
Yes, sir, I would. The very first thing I would like to say is I would like to acknowledge the family and loved ones of Shirley Larris. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this will be the third hearing that they've been a part of, on top of all the pain that I've caused them for the last 32 years. I can only imagine how difficult this must be for them. And if I could say anything to them, I would not only say that I'm deeply sorry for the pain and grief that I've caused them, but I would also thank them for taking the time and for having the courage to be a part of this hearing.
That's it?
Other than that, sir, I would just say that since I was granted a recommendation for commutation of sentence by this honorable board in January of 2023, I've completed several more programming courses. I've also gotten my master's certification in the IC3 digital literacy program. I've continued to do volunteer work and community service. And shortly after being granted commutation, I was asked by Ms. Amber Victorio, who is here today, if I would speak to kids and at-risk youth who tour the prison on a regular basis. I've been doing that for a little over a year and a half now, and it's been so fulfilling and impactful in my life. It's given me a chance to give back to the community. It's given me a chance to apply a lot of what I've learned over the years through programming and my life experiences by giving that knowledge to those kids. It's allowed me, in a way, to make amends for what I've done. More than anything else, though, it's given me the opportunity to honor the life of Shirley Laris by hopefully, possibly, maybe one day preventing another family from going through what I put her family through. You know, maybe, hopefully one day keeping another kid from making the same poor decisions that I made when I was young. And sir, I would just like to say that I've worked really hard on myself to acquire the necessary character traits that have made me an upstanding member of my community here in the prison. And I strongly believe that I can take those same character traits with me into society and become an upstanding member of my community there as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Christopher. I really appreciate that. Now we're going to hear from the victim's mother. Can you hear us? Still on
Hello?
mute. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes, he's brought a lot of pain in my life and my family. And Christopher is as much fault as the other one. Because she wouldn't have sex with him. So they decided they're gonna kill her. She ran into the bathroom and then she was trying to get out so she can go home. And Harold said if he had a gun, he'd shoot her. Christopher told him he didn't need a gun. Here's a knife. So Harold started stabbing her in her face, her arms. Then she ran out the house and she got in her car and they both broke the window and pulled her out of the car. Then they proceeded to stab her again. Then when the knife broke inside of her body, they took the stepping stone and mashed her head in. And after that, they knew she was dead. Christopher took off her jacket and said she won't need this anymore. Then they both picked her up and put her into her trunk like she was a piece of garbage. And I really do believe if Christopher wouldn't have showed him that knife, my daughter would be alive today. But I promised her at her gravesite that I would do everything I can to get justice for her. So I'm asking you today, please, give my daughter some justice. I owe her that. We owe her that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ms. Picking, the victim's sister.
I'm a friend of Shirley's, little Shirley, since we were in grade school. So we were best friends, and I can remember her telling me about meeting one of the guys that eventually took her life. And I remember the excitement that she had, for this guy. And I don't exactly know what all went wrong that night. I wasn't there, but I do know this, that yeah, almost 32 years at this point has passed. And while I respect human beings and their ability and their willingness to change and to do things better, it does not take back and give back her life. All of the things that have been accomplished by Mr. Picard through the years, that is great. That was probably because he is incarcerated. And she got to achieve nothing. Absolutely nothing. And for myself, I can tell you this, as long as there is air in my lungs, I will stand up for her because she has no voice. And what was supposed to have happened years ago is that this was supposed to be a plea bargain that they would not be eligible for parole ever. Otherwise, it would have went up as the death penalty. And here we are today. And I realize that 32 years has passed, but 32 years does not, it's not the cost. It's not the cost of her life. Life, she has none. It's gone. I cannot even imagine how anybody can look and say, yeah, I'd be willing to give up my child. And 32 years is enough. There's not. As long as, and I'm going to say this from me personally, as long as Miss Shirley, her mother, is alive, I don't think she should ever have to watch the killers of her daughter be set free to achieve anything that her daughter never got the opportunity to achieve. That is not a personal jab at anyone. I think that it is just fair. And without considering that, there really is no justice to this. And there is no win. There is no win. Because I realize that this happening hurt both families, all people. But to set someone free, she's never going to be free. She will never get to accomplish all the things, nothing. And I'm completely opposed to this. I will never change my mind on this. It's not a personal to anybody. It's just fair. It is fair. You took her life. You shouldn't have one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to hear from Ms. Cameron, the attorney.
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak on Chris's behalf. I have personally known Chris for longer than just the time that I've been his attorney. I was actually introduced to Chris many years ago. And one thing I can say about Chris is he has a personality that just attracts people. He is very personable. He knows how to speak to people. What Amy was saying about his professionalism at rodeo, I see him at every rodeo interacting with the public in a way that a lot of people just can't do. It's just natural. Chris was 19 years old when this situation occurred, and he knows that he can never take back his decisions that night. There's no way to change that. But he has spent more than 32 years or almost 32 years working to become a better person. Chris holds, his packet includes over 60 certificates that he has earned between classes, community service, and recognition at his employment in the CDC warehouse. 19 of those he's earned since he earned his clemency recommendation in January of 23. What that shows is Chris never stopped working. He didn't sit back and wait for this board to maybe grant him parole and hope that what he had done was enough. He has continued to work. Chris acknowledges that his decision that night were very much influenced by substances and alcohol. He was blackout drunk. I've looked at the data, I've looked at the blood alcohol content, and I can tell you that it was decisions that were fueled by, substances that were aboard his body. Chris acknowledges that he will always be an addict, and he has to do the work to continue to stay sober. He has taken and completed every substance abuse class offered here, including Celebrate Recovery just since his recommendation. He facilitates some of the classes and even served as vice president of the sober group here at Angola. Chris's community service includes going out off of the campus. He even was offered to be part of what they called the 24-hour stick out here during COVID because he's so trusted by the people who are here. Ms. Vittorio asked him to speak to the tour groups because she knew that he had something to say and he could contribute to the groups that are coming through. He speaks to people from school age level all the way to people from probation and parole who come here. And Ms. Vittorio herself has acknowledged that Chris is very honest when he does that. His reentry program involves, we've already heard from Parole Project, His ICOTS is already approved for him to go to Alabama to live with his family, where he will stay with his mother, and he has a job offer with Big Mac Towing. Chris is a model offender. He has been working to be a better man. This last 33 years, when he's been working through rehabilitation, he didn't have the possibility of freedom. And now he can see the light, but he still continues to work. To me, that tells you what kind of man he is. Martin Luther King once said that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. I would put to this board that 33 years here at Angola, especially starting in the early 90s when things were not all that great here, would have measured Chris. And what Chris has done is stood above and stood as a good man, the best man he could be, working towards that rehabilitation to honor Shirley. I just hope and pray that this board can see a way to allow Chris a second chance at life, because we do believe that he will be an upstanding citizen, and he's got the support of me, my family as well, and a whole group of people who are ready to make sure that he stays in line and does what he needs to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hickhart,
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
LaRue is handling your case today. She'll be asking some questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Be asking some questions along with the rest of us on the board. Ms. LaDue?
Mr. Picard, how did you know your co-defendant Harold Brand?
I got married at an early age, Miss Ledoux, and me and my wife and my son were living in Mississippi. My wife and I separated, and I moved back to Louisiana. Once I moved back to Louisiana, I didn't really realize this until coming to prison, actually. I started using drugs and alcohol because I was depressed of being separated from my family. And within the circle of friends who I hooked up with moving back to Louisiana was when I met Harold.
He was just a drinking, drugging friend, basically.
Yes, ma'am.
And he is still incarcerated, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were arrested, were you arrested for first-degree murder?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it a plea deal to get a second-degree charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Unlike some offenders that I see, you do have 17 write-ups. I know that 2018 was the last one, and I mean 30s are kind of like a catch-all, right? But do you want to explain the nature of that?
The 2018 write-up? Yes, ma'am. I had an interview with the captain from the Louisiana State Police Barracks. And I was hearing that I might possibly be being transferred to the State Police Barracks. So I called a friend of mine, actually the friend who spoke earlier on my behalf, Miss Amy Dozier. And when I called her, she happened to be already on the phone with another friend of mine who was also incarcerated. And so when I called her and she answered, she just clicked over. And I guess it's called a conference call. When she clicked over, it made it where all three of us were on the line. I was simply calling her to inform her that I might be being transferred because she is like family to me. And me and the friend who she was on the phone with, we visit together at times. So I was just simply trying to let him know that I might be leaving and, you know, trying to make preparations for that, to let him know. And she happened to be on the phone with him.
I call that inmate.com. Right. All right, so, this case bothers me a lot. I'd like to go into executive session to discuss them.
I say,
Jerry Ledoux? Yes. Danny Barros?
yes.
Chuck Tillys?
Yes.
You did great. You did great.
We're reconvening at 10:28. Call roll, please.
Jerry Ledoux? Yes. Danny Barros?
Yeah.
Chuck Tillys?
Yes. Ms. Ledoux, have you finished your questioning?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Morris?
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions either. Is the board prepared to vote?
Fine.
Yeah. Okay, Ms. Ledoux?
So, Mr. Picard, what I'm looking at is a first-degree murder pled down to a second-degree murder, who now has, instead of a life term, you have 99 years. I think that you have had a lot of breaks in this case, and to tell you the truth, I am not prepared to vote to grant today. So my vote is to deny. I'm basing that on the plea agreements that have been made, victim opposition, you know, law enforcement opposition. But I do want to commend you for what you're doing. So one of the things you have been continuing since your commutation to work, you'll get another chance. And at that time, you'll be able to convince them, I'm sure, that you continued since then. So that's my vote today. To deny.
Mr. Barra?
I'm going to concur with Ms. Ledoux for the same reasons.
And my vote is also to deny. And this concludes our business for today.
All right, let me know what you think about the conclusions in the comments below. If you like this video, please consider liking. Please consider subscribing for a new court video every week.